Now, we're joined by another trailblazer in the true new media. We're not the alternative media. We are the real media, the new media, arising to fill the vacuum because the prostitute establishment media won't do it. We are joined by Chris Burgard. In 2007, Chris Burgard created the award-winning documentary Border, I remember that, which screened for the House and Senate. Following a 16-state promotional tour in numerous sold-out theaters, Burgard's film resonated with presidential candidate Herman Cain, who recruited Burgard to be his senior creative and strategic media consultant. As a dad who can't stand to see children used for profit, Burgard traveled back to the border last month, only to uncover that the situation was more dire and urgent than previously reported. What he discovered was shocking, and he feels compelled to tell Americans the truth, the startling truth. BackToTheBorder.com. And he's with us at the bottom of the hour, and we'll get to your calls on Ebola, because I want to get your take for folks that are there as well. And then joining us will be a man he interviewed just a few weeks ago, chairman and border security expert of the National Association of Former Border Patrol Officers and former senior head of the Border Patrol. As a retired Border Patrol agent and supervisor who spent 26 years patrolling the Mexican border with Texas and Arizona. And Zach Taylor has warned that it's asymmetrical warfare. I want to play a short clip of that interview and then go to the filmmaker. But here's Zach Taylor warning people about what's really happening. It's a premeditated military takedown of the U.S. Here it is.
The whole idea of asymmetrical warfare is to defeat your enemy from within. It is not to attack him from without. Of course, the threat comes from without, but they have to be inside of the United States to effect a successful warfare strategy. If asymmetrical warfare is going to be successful, the first thing that has to be done is to compromise America's defenses against invasion, because they have to have their personnel inside the United States to affect the infrastructure. Our hospitals, our schools, our electric grid, our power supplies, our water supply. Basically, what we call infrastructure. All of those things create our infrastructure. But they have to affect the degeneration from inside the United States. The markers that we're seeing that indicate this is asymmetrical warfare is because the reaction that the United States is taking is they're taking the opportunity of inviting these illegal aliens to come here. They're concentrating them in one place in the United States, the Rio Grande Valley, and they're drawing the resources that are protecting the rest of the United States border to care for the illegal alien children, to help with the overflow of the minors, to transport, to take care of the needs of these people while they're in Homeland Security custody. All this takes the resources that are protecting America at the border off of the border. So now the borders are wide open. This gives the people that are trying to get their infrastructure, their personnel, their drugs, their dirty bombs, their biological weapons, their chemical weapons into the United States without being noticed, because this part of the border is open. It is not being patrolled. It is a perfect military strategy. It doesn't raise any eyebrows because we're focused on the children. But we need to focus on our children, because this is asymmetrical warfare. Everything says it is. And the way the United States government is responding to it is concealing that fact from the American people. In other words, they're assisting in the downfall of America. And you need to understand that.
That's right. And that's total truth, what you just heard. Absolutely true. That's why they covered up that they're bussing them in. We had to go down and show the video to prove it. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, the New York Times had to admit it. All because we sent reporters down there and Drudge Report picked it up. That's how important this operation is. And I'm not tooting our horn. The mainstream media has been covering this up until we called them on it. Now the question is, well, why are you doing this? Why are you inviting them here? Why is Rahm Emanuel saying, come to Chicago? You know, these are war-torn areas. Chicago's war-torn. Our country is collapsing, and the asymmetrical warfare is Cloward and Piven, not just dirty bombs. That's all I would add. That it's meant to implode the counties, the cities, so they can come in with a Marshall Plan to federally stabilize the Southwest and other areas that will collapse under the millions that are now coming. This is only the primer, the detonator. This whole global advertisement of the kids coming here and that they get to be at resort-like conditions. And that all the big Baptist churches and Catholic churches are getting federal money, $6,000 a month, up to $7,000 a month, to warehouse groups of 3 in private homes. So it works on a bunch of fronts. It's a wealth transfer, it's a scam, it's organized crime. Now, we're joined, again, by the filmmaker who is making the new documentary, BackToTheBorder.com. Chris Burgard, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Well, you heard my little 5-minute breakdown there and playing that clip of the interview you did for your film that's coming up. You've been all over the border and have seen even more than my reporters. Give us your breakdown, sir, as a journalist, on exactly what's happening.
Well, Alex, we've been doing this 9 years now, and I thought that we had told the whole story when we did Border and released that back in 2007. But when I see kids used for profit, I'm a dad. I can't stand that. Whether it's profit by the drug cartels or the politicians, I couldn't just sit back. I mean, the federal government can't tell me that they didn't know that children were being used on the border, because I filmed it in 2005 and I showed Congress in 2007. Michael Chertoff even commented on it.
That's right. It was a big scandal that the mules are using the kids, and they're even getting U.S. kids to go down there to become mules, and they're getting killed.
Yeah, well, the cartels have been recruiting in the United States for a while, because if you're a suburban kid that doesn't fit the typical tattooed Hispanic gangbanger cliche, then they can do a lot more with you. But we filmed in 2005 the arrest of a group of kids, and because it takes longer to process them and Border Patrol's there, while they're tied up, they hit the fence in 9 other areas. I mean, it's a business model that works. And what you're seeing now on the border, this is something that cartel sources have been saying they've been working on for 2 years, since DACA first came through. They knew that it gave them a loophole. If you're 17, you come on in, and after 72 hours, you're no longer held by Customs and Border Patrol. You're transferred to Health and Human Services under the Organization of Refugee Resettlement. So what they do is they've been recruiting folks to come up here, because what you're not seeing at the border is everybody, on the mainstream cameras, is everybody else that's coming in where you're not looking. Places like Falfurrias, Texas, or Sonoyta, Arizona. This is a plan. This is a disaster by design. I mean, the drug cartels are multi-billion-dollar businesses. They're going to do what they need to do to make a profit. It's just really sad to see that enforcement on the border in the last 9 years, I've seen it degraded to the point that it's just worse. It's not better.
And, of course, your film shows the dead bodies of little 3- and 4-year-old Mexican and Latin American children. The mass graves are just everywhere. Tens of thousands have been dug up. Who knows what else is out there? They're being fed on by the cartels, by the coyotes. But then Robert Rodriguez puts Don Johnson in a cowboy hat and says they're all being killed by Don Johnson.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that movie, but yeah, we have pictures of. Let's go back to Falfurrias County, Texas. 9 years ago, we had pictures of the deaths that were occurring on the ranches around there. Mrs. Vickers has a ranch down there with her husband, Doc Vickers. Her dogs come up to her. They think she gets out of the house in the morning. She thinks they want to play a ball. They drop this white object at her feet, and it's not a ball, but it's a human skull from a woman that had been murdered hundreds of yards from their front door. That's the reality it's living down there. Now, I filmed that was 9 years ago. you would think things are better. Going back down there a few weeks ago, they've had over 250 dead folks within 15 minutes of their front door just in the last 2 years. That's not better. That's
so there's
worse.
road warrior level barbarism, and now it's coming across the borders.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. Celebrate the spirit of 1776 with the George Washington brass belt buckle or this incredibly sharp-looking 1776 hat. Badass. And be sure to check out the new arrivals at InfoWars Life, where you can prepare your body to perform at peak levels with Survival Shield, Nascent Iodine, Super Male Vitality, and Fluoride Shield. And wake up, America. Immune Support Blend is the healthy choice for the gourmet coffee lover. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
Our guest is going to ride shotgun with us, Chris Burgard, amazing filmmaker. I remember his film, Border. Really woke up a lot of people. And this using kids has been going on a while. And again, they're just the front. Border crossings across the border just exploding. And they're legalizing criminals. They're legalizing violent felons and turning them loose. So the kids is just the big front, ladies and gentlemen. Zach Taylor's coming up, chairman of border security expert of the National Association of Former Border Patrol Officers that warned of the asymmetrical warfare, and our guest will ride shotgun with us. We're going to go back to our guest here in a moment, but first I wanted to read to you a few comments in the story about Obama signing an executive order to lock up anybody that's got a cough, basically. And one of the commenters said, you can punch up my screen if you want, if you are homeless, you get detained. If you have a cough, you get detained. If you let your kid play in the park, you get detained. Do you see what this is going? And he goes on to say we have no rights. But Bob Smith says, but if you're an illegal alien, you don't get detained. And the next guy says, no, you do get detained in a luxury resort and then free airfare to the destination, your chosen destination. And then you get a driver's license, you get to vote, you get free welfare. I mean, this is just totally insane. Going back again to the filmmaker, sir, this is only like a 5-6 minute segment, so I want you to have the floor and break it down. How much worse is the border now than it was? I mean, clearly it's basically not there from what we've seen. And then what comes next? Because if this flood is already huge and then they're advertising, come here, everything's free, it'll bring an even bigger flood. I mean, how bad do you think this will get? And what do you think the master plan by Obama and the Ford Foundation is?
Well, let me speak to what I know. Yeah, I was in Honduras during the regime change. I was down there filming. And I've had experience with folks that are down there in the campesinos. As long as they think this surge is going to keep continuing, as long as they think they can get here, and as long as their relatives are coming north and they're staying north, and until you see a C-130 landing in downtown Tagusa Airport with folks being reunited with their countrymen, they're going to keep coming north. So this is going to be here for a while. Let me tell you what I can speak to facts, what I filmed over the last 9 years. There is a concerted effort that billions of dollars are spent to control, to create the illusion of border security instead of actually securing the border. And there's been an effort that I've experienced firsthand to keep America from knowing who's coming across the border when they actually know. Let me go back to a couple of years ago. Let's go back to Falfurrias, Texas. When friends of mine were getting Chinese nationals apprehended on the ranches, I go to Border Patrol under President Obama and I say, can you tell me how many Chinese apprehensions you're getting down here? And they're like, sir, we can only tell you the total number of apprehensions in the top 5 countries of origin. China's not in that, so we can't speak to anything about Chinese nationals. However, on those same ranches, our U.S. government has built rescue stations with languages in English, Spanish, and Mandarin. So the entire time they're keeping guys like me from bringing the truth to America, they're spending money to deal with what's coming over. And it's not just Chinese. On the Vickers Ranch, they had a Coyote Scout that dropped an Urdu dictionary. He's bringing a group of 12 across. The group of 12 got in. Now he doesn't have an Urdu dictionary to deal with folks that speak English. These are folks that are coming from either Pakistan or Afghanistan, and they're getting into the country, and it's happening on a regular basis. So what's the next step? I hope it's not a terrorist attack inside our borders for somebody that came from across the border, but it's not just folks coming from Mexico looking for work. That's what they want you to believe, but that's not what's going on. And so my question is, why does the Obama administration do this? Clearly, they don't want America to know what's going on the border, because if they knew how many people are dying down there, if they knew how horribly they're dying, if they knew that Americans, their fellow Americans, can't even go feed their horses without taking a semi-automatic rifle with them, that ranch wives aren't safe on their ranch unless they're surrounded by protection, America wouldn't put up with it. No one would be talking immigration if they knew how insecure the border is.
Well, that's right. Or if they lived in Texas or they'd been to Mexico lately. I mean, Mexico is scary. It is a failed road warrior hell state in the north, especially in the central areas, and they just have no idea. They're so gullible. Americans just have no idea. I want to come back, sir, with you and the senior Border Patrol guy to break down what this asymmetrical warfare spells. And this is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. The new InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver is the answer for you and your family. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. The InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Silver is so powerful that it is concentrated into a 2-ounce bottle and is not recommended for extended continual use. This is not a low-grade formula. We are working with one of the top laboratory manufacturers in the United States to bring you the best form of colloidal silver using electrical processes within a base of deionized water for your preparedness storage. For your home kitchen, purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.